it's Colleen Schmidt once again from Divination Counseling Service. I'm here to present to you another Moon Ingress chart. Today we're looking at the May 27th, 2020 Ingress into Leo. Okay, so that means that for the next couple of days, 27th, 28th, 29th, you will be dealing with this chart because the chart of the ingresses tend to have a very strong effect. Not to say that it would diminish any effect when this Leo moon aspects your chart, because it will, it can, and it will. So let's look at this. Let's look at this chart. So here we have the chart. Okay, I'm gonna just turn it a little bit so that I can deal with it better. And let's look at it. So here we have the moon. I want to talk about this configuration right here. So this moon, at least for the East Coast, is taking place in the 5th house. Now what makes that really interesting is that Leo, the sign of Leo, already rules that 5th house because that's the energy that's ruled by the sun. So the Leo energy represents the I am, or how you express yourself. It's a part of who you are. I want to say I am because that's actually the 1st house, but the 5th house is perhaps more of my art, my music, my way to express myself. So for everybody, that's going to be a little different. I went for some obvious ones there. So it's the house of creative self-expression. It's also the house of children. So we see here in this chart the 5th house, and we can see that, we'll just look at all the things here at 0. So it's conjuncting this Volcanus. So let's talk about that for a minute because a lot of us might not be familiar with Volcanus. I had done articles on Volcanus. So I want to talk about, the trans-Neptunian. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it because I actually wrote about it. You can go check it out on the website. But it's a have to. Now here we go. It's like you have to do something. You have to. It's this compelling energy. It's really, motivating that have to concept. And it may be coming from, I have to be able to express myself. I have to be able, again, not to oversimplify, but sometimes when we have those kinds of energies, and particularly taking place in this lower part or this quadrant of the chart, we could be talking a little bit about selfishness, okay? So you have this, we really have to. Now, a couple of things I want to point out about this, okay? Some really obvious things, actually. Let's look at what totally is opposite. Oh yeah, Saturn, okay? And out of sign, Jupiter and Pluto, because they would still be within that 10-degree orb. I don't always go out that far, but if you're a newer astrologer, there's a lot that can be learned sometimes by just extending that and kind of looking at that big grouping. But for our purposes today, I really want to kind of zero in on this 1 degree 44 retrograde Saturn. That's actually coming back toward a direct opposition to that moon. And really, and I want to point out one more thing, because this is part of a T-square. So let's just briefly, if the moon is our emotions and Saturn is our lessons that we need to learn in a retrograde, maybe not so obvious, but we're really, emotionally, maybe this opposition deals with the restrictions that we're learning how to live with, okay, that are brought to us because of others, 11th house, the house of group associations. So group associations could have some effect on forcing people or making people feel compelled, and here, wait for it, with 2 degrees, here we go, Apollon. Okay, so why is that significant? Okay, well, 2 degrees means it's within what I call the 2.5 degree orb. It's actually out by 18 minutes, but it's retrograding back. So that's significant. So we have, that's a tight orb. So I think the longer people do astrology, sometimes the tighter they become with their orbs. I'm pretty tight normally. But in this kind of work, because I'm also trying to educate, I like to open it up a little bit. But here, Apollon is really in aspect to Saturn and the moon. Okay, so it's a T square. Okay, now what is it a T square to? And does that T square have a grand cross? It does. Okay, so let's go to the very beginning of Taurus, where people are freaking out about, that's what it is, Eros, excited about self-destructive behavior. Wow. I guess what this is talking about is that, and it's there in the first house, you know, that I want to point that out. Let's look at the houses. We got the first, the 11th, the 5th, and the 7th. But it's very close to the cusp, but it's still the 7th. So we're looking at one-to-one partnerships, relationships, 7th, other people, group activities, and that first house, which is really the I am house. And here you have this grand cross with some really, what I want to refer to as bad behavior, and how that bad behavior is then affecting other people or you. So maybe this is an opportunity for those people who are trying to follow the rules to be a little bit more upset with those that don't think they have to follow any rules. And that's where the idea of self-destruction comes in. That's where the idea of, again, your personal versus the other people. I mean, we have to look at that, because what's going on in the world right now is not about us, the individual. It's not about me. Okay, even though I'm older, I'm pretty healthy, so I don't worry about me. But I actually did stop one of my businesses because I deal with vulnerable population, and I love those people. I would be heart sick if anything happened to those people, particularly if it was my fault. So I kind of feel that this may be a little bit more of that energy applying on a bigger scale, you know, maybe, you know, on steroids. I'm personally being affected, so it's sometimes easier for me to understand, particularly the Saturn, since it sits right on my Venus. And it really, I take very seriously that even though my money has become tighter, I take very seriously my role as a citizen on this planet. Okay? I hope everyone out there does the same. So, in any event, I wanted to talk about that grand square because that's pretty significant for those couple of days. And I do think it's going to come to our attention that there are people who are getting upset because they feel that other people, you know, again, you can't, and it would work, again, the other way it could work is if you're one of those people that just thinks that you need to get out and nobody should be telling you what to do. And yeah, just realize that's self-destructive. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not putting a judgment on it, because as an astrologer, nothing is good or all bad, but it is all about learning lessons. Okay? So I'm not going to elaborate on that anymore. So instead, I'm going to look here at my report. I'm going to pull up my aspect list. Okay? And we can see here that the moon opposite Jupiter, the moon opposite Saturn, the moon. So the moon is not going to be in good aspects to some of the healing transformation that's going on in the world. And I do see that as some rebellion. Okay? And realize that in this day and age, with the chart of the United States, rebellion and the whole idea of revolution is not outside of the realm of reality, okay? Realize it's part of the healing. It's part of the learning of the lesson. And for some of us, that lesson might ouch a bit, okay? So especially right now, because I really do think that here we are, the moon to the node. Sure, go out and see your buddies. and then wait and see how you're going to be shut down again. Pushing the economy, okay, not with Saturn, not with the new moon, May 22nd, look it up, new moon was a direct Venus, which was retrograde, in direct square with Neptune. Really, can you believe anything you're hearing? And are people really out there because they're worried about money, or out there because they're selfish? Because I sort of question that. Are the people who are actually protesting people that really need money? Because I'm going to go with a big no on that. Okay, I'm going to say that those people are a little bit better off anyway, and that they're doing this because there's some sort of feeling that they're entitled somehow. And again, I'm not going to make that bad or good, okay? I'm just going to point out that what you see is not real, that there is missing information because of the Neptune lack of clarity. Also, the way chaos, Eos, and Aurora, which are all kind of about that craziness and where they fall in the charts. Okay, so enough of my digression. But just look at, again, how majorly aspected this is. But realize that the contraparallel here, the midheaven being our future, this chart does not bode well for foundations for the future. So please, please be aware that human behavior can set us back, okay? It's square, as I pointed out, to Apollon. It's sextile. In other words, it's an opportunity for, I hate to say this, more restriction. So please bear in mind that by forging ahead, by looking at that first house, that it does not bode well for our future. That the selfishness, the sense of entitlement, I won't be told what to do, that doesn't bode well for the future, okay? And I think we're going to be dealing with that, especially considering that we're now off of that Memorial Day fiasco, and for some places, they already have bad news about people that were there, and they're going to have to quarantine. And I'm willing to bet a percentage of them will not. So in any event, the continuing saga of the virus and everything that we have to deal with because of it, but realize that it is not the virus. It is our human behavior, our human condition, okay? We're dealing with a lot of broken systems right now, and there's anger as a result. So do not misdirect the anger at something that nobody, and I repeat that, nobody has control over. Okay? So let's try to be positive in our approach. Let's try to use this particular Leo moon for creative self-expression as a way to alleviate the pressures that are being caused by the slowdown in our economy. And if you're somebody who really doesn't feel, and I really mean this, because some people do not have a choice. They do not have a choice to work outside in that world. They have to. Or they lose their jobs, and then they lose their benefits. And, you know, let's just be a little bit more respectful to them. So, with that said, I want to wish you all happy readings. And as always, please contact me, Colleen Schmidt, through divinationcounselingservice.org. And if you're somebody who is watching these, share them. Because I believe with the healing that we're going to be going through, because the Jupiter-Pluto is about healing, even if we can't see it right now. And as we go through this healing process, one of the things that's emerging is what's referred to as the divine feminine principle. And everyone who understands light workers and the divine understands that astrology and tarot are a huge part of that rise. So please educate your friends One of the greatest wishes I ever had in life was that we could learn astrology, at least basic astrology, while we were still in high school. I'm still hoping for that, though it seems, quite ridiculous at this point. But it doesn't mean I can't hope, and that goes for you as well. Just hope for some good things. They'll come. In the meantime, happy readings until we meet again.